Welcome to this journey into the unseen forces that shape our world. I remember the night the sky fell, not literally of course, but it felt that way. A chilling October evening in 1957, a week after my 24th birthday. I was huddled in the cramped radio lab at Johns Hopkins APL, the air thick with stale coffee and nervous energy. Outside, the world was holding its breath. And inside, a small, unassuming beep on our rudimentary receiver, that beep was about to change everything. Not just for me, not just for science, but for every single soul on this planet. It was a sound that screamed of a future where no one would ever truly be lost again. But before that promise, there was a question: how do you find your way in a world that is suddenly much, much bigger than you ever imagined? This is the story of that unseen promise, the invisible threads woven through the very fabric of our modern lives. This is The Unseen Threads, my journey through the birth of GPS. If this kind of story speaks to you, do not forget to like the video and subscribe for more. It helps bring these forgotten journeys back into the light. In 1957, I was just Dr. Elias Thorne, a junior physicist, barely a year out of graduate school, with a head full of theories and a heart full of Cold War anxieties. The world was a chessboard, and every move felt like a step closer to global annihilation. Johns Hopkins APL, the Applied Physics Laboratory, was a crucible of innovation, a place where the brightest minds wrestled with the darkest fears. Our mission, officially, was missile defense. Unofficially, it felt like we were all just trying to keep the sky from truly falling. Then, October 4th happened, Sputnik. That metallic beach ball, launched by the Soviets, singing its ominous beep 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 as it circled the Earth. It was not just a satellite, it was a psychological weapon, a stark declaration that they were ahead. The shock in the labs was palpable. I remember the stunned silence, then the frantic scramble. Everyone wanted to hear that signal. Amidst the chaos, two brilliant minds, Dr. George Weifenbach and William Geer, noticed something peculiar about Sputnik's signal. It was not just beeping, its frequency was subtly shifting, like the pitch of a train whistle changing as it passes you, only this was a satellite, millions of miles an hour overhead. This was the Doppler Effect in action. They reasoned, with characteristic ingenuity, that if they knew the satellite's exact orbit, they could use this frequency shift to calculate their own precise location on Earth. And then, the inverse hit them. If their position was known, they could pinpoint the satellite's orbit with unprecedented accuracy. It sounds simple now, does it not? But imagine the enormity of that leap, from a theoretical observation to a practical application that could redefine navigation. I remember Dr. Weifenbach, a quiet man with a perpetually furrowed brow, sketching furiously on a whiteboard, his chalk flying. Geer, always the more effusive of the two, would pace the small lab, muttering equations under his breath. I was mostly fetching coffee, double-checking calculations, and absorbing every word, my own mind racing with the possibilities. This was the spark, the genesis of Project Transit. The United States Navy, acutely aware of the need for their Polaris ballistic missile submarines to know their precise location for accurate nuclear deterrence, quickly saw the potential. These submarines, carrying their deadly payloads, needed to know exactly where they were to hit their targets. Relying on celestial navigation or imprecise LORAN systems in the vast, unforgiving ocean was simply not enough when the fate of the world hung in the balance. Dr. Richard B. Kirshner, a visionary leader at APL, took this fledgling idea and hammered it into reality. He became, rightly so, known as the father of transit. Under his relentless drive, the first transit satellite became operational in 1964. It worked by broadcasting a continuous radio signal. A submarine, or any user, would measure the Doppler shift of this signal over a 10.15-minute period as the satellite passed overhead. From this Doppler curve, they could calculate their position. It was revolutionary. But, as with all first steps, transit had its limitations. It offered only 2D fixes, latitude and longitude, but no precise altitude. More critically, it was intermittent. You would get a fix maybe once every hour or two, depending on your location in the satellite's orbit. For a submarine surfacing briefly to get a fix, it was a lifeline. But for truly continuous navigation, for an aircraft needing constant updates, or a soldier in the field, it was not enough. The Cold War was escalating, and the demands for precision for continuous global coverage were growing exponentially. I saw the frustration in the eyes of my colleagues, the constant push for more. We had opened the door, but the true journey had just begun. The invisible threads were being spun, but they were not yet a complete tapestry. The late 1960s and early 1970s felt like a race against ourselves. The success of transit proved satellite navigation was viable, but its limitations spurred on different branches of the military, each pursuing their own, often incompatible solutions. The Air Force had Project 621B, dreaming of using pseudo-random noise codes and ultra-precise atomic clocks to range from geosynchronous satellites. The Navy, meanwhile, at the Naval Research Laboratory, had its TI-mation program, led by the astute Roger Easton. His team was proving the viability of passive ranging, where the user only receives signals, no transmission needed, using atomic clocks in space. Their Time-Machine 3 satellite, launched in 1977, was a crucial precursor, the first to carry an atomic clock into orbit, demonstrating a concept absolutely vital for what would become GPS. I had moved by then, drawn by the intellectual gravity of the Naval Research Laboratory, a place buzzing with the quiet hum of advanced physics. I was a part of Easton's team, working on the Time-Machine program, grappling with the intricacies of keeping an atomic clock perfectly stable in the harsh vacuum of space. It was a monumental challenge. Imagine a clock so precise it would not gain or lose a second in 300,000 years, hurtling through orbit, continuously broadcasting time signals. That was the dream. The problem, however, was fragmentation. Each service was pouring billions into its own solution, and it was becoming clear that this was not sustainable. We needed a unified system, something that could serve everyone, everywhere, all the time. This strategic imperative culminated in a meeting that, in hindsight, was nothing short of historic. Thanksgiving weekend of 1973, the Pentagon. I was not a decision maker, I was a young analyst, there to present some of our Time-Machine data. The air in that room was thick with tension, with the weight of inter-service rivalries and the enormity of the Cold War. Malcolm Curry, then the Director of Defense Research and Engineering, led the charge. But the real force of nature was Bradford Parkinson, an Air Force colonel who would later be known as the father of GPS. He, along with Ivan Gidding of the Aerospace Corporation, had been tirelessly advocating for a single, comprehensive satellite navigation system. The argument was not about if we needed satellite navigation, but how. The brilliant minds in that room, often clashing, finally converged on a unified vision for what would become Navstar GPS, Navigation Signal Timing and Ranging Global Positioning System. The key principle solidified, a constellation of satellites in medium Earth orbit, ensuring global, continuous coverage, passive ranging, using those incredibly precise atomic clocks, and the innovative use of spread spectrum signals for robustness. My heart pounded as the decisions were made. It was audacious. 24 satellites, each a tiny beacon of perfect time, constantly broadcasting their precise location, allowing any receiver on Earth to calculate its own position through trilateration, or more accurately, pseudo-ranging. This was not just a technological feat, it was an organizational miracle. Parkinson's leadership in the newly established Joint Program Office, or JPO, was instrumental. He blended the Air Force's expertise in precise timing, the Navy's experience with space-based atomic clocks, and the Army's need for real-time positioning. I remember the long nights, the endless calculations, the sheer complexity of synchronizing these celestial timekeepers. We were building an invisible infrastructure, a network of signals that would bind the globe. We did not know it then, but we were laying the foundation for something far beyond military applications. The next 2 decades were a marathon. The first Navstar Block I experimental satellite launched in February 1978. Each launch was a moment of breathless anticipation. We would gather, watch the monitors, hands clasped, knowing that years of work, billions of dollars, and the hopes of national security rested on that fiery ascent. One by one, more satellites joined the constellation, each one a tiny, complex symphony of engineering. There were setbacks, of course, failures, delays, budget battles, but the vision, once solidified, was unwavering. Then, in September 1983, came a moment that would forever alter GPS's trajectory, pulling it from the shadows of military secrecy into the light of public awareness: Korean Airlines Flight 007. A civilian airliner, straying inexplicably into Soviet airspace, was shot down. All 269 souls on board were lost. It was a tragedy that reverberated around the world, a chilling reminder of Cold War tensions and the devastating consequences of navigational errors. I remember the news reports, the disbelief, the profound sadness. It was a dark time. But out of that darkness, an extraordinary decision emerged. President Ronald Reagan, in a humanitarian gesture, issued a directive. Once GPS was fully operational, it would be made freely available for civilian use worldwide. It was a seismic shift. Our secret military weapon, born of Cold War necessity, was being offered to the world as a tool for safety and navigation. However, there was a catch. The military, understandably, wanted to maintain a strategic advantage. So, they implemented Selective Availability, or SA. This policy, in effect from 1990, intentionally degraded the accuracy of the civilian GPS signal. While military users got precision to a matter of meters, civilian users would find their position could be off by as much as 100 meters. It was like offering a clear map to one group and a slightly smudged, blurry one to another. For those of us who had poured our lives into this system, it was complicated. We understood the military rationale, the need to protect national security, but we also saw the immense civilian potential being held back. I imagined the fishermen who could find their way home in the densest fog, the pilots landing safely in zero visibility, the emergency responders locating those in distress. Selective availability was a necessary compromise, but it felt like a leash on a magnificent beast. The full constellation of 24 satellites was finally achieved in 1994, and full operational capability was declared in 1995. GPS was ready. But the world was not quite ready for its full, unchained power. If you have made it this far into the journey, thank you. If you are enjoying this kind of storytelling, I would be honored if you subscribed. It helps bring forgotten voices like mine back to life and keeps this history alive. Now, back to our story, the year 2000. For me, it was not just the turn of a new millennium, it was the dawn of a new era for GPS. On May 1st, President Bill Clinton, with a simple executive order, commanded the cessation of selective availability. In an instant, that metaphorical leash was released. Civilian GPS accuracy shot up from 100 meters to mere meters, matching the military signal. It was a moment of profound vindication for me and countless others. I remember watching the news, a quiet tear in my eye. The potential we had always seen, the true power of this system, was finally unleashed upon the world. The transformation was breathtaking. It was as if a dam had burst. Suddenly, precise location data was available to everyone, everywhere, with a simple, affordable receiver. I remember my nephew, a budding farmer, showing me how his tractor, guided by GPS, could plant seeds with incredible accuracy, optimizing yield and reducing waste. My niece, living in a sprawling city, navigated unfamiliar streets with a device no bigger than her palm. Think about it. Before 2000, if you were in an unfamiliar city, you would be fumbling with paper maps, stopping to ask for directions, perhaps getting hopelessly lost. Now, almost instinctively, we pull out our phones and within seconds, a voice guides us, turn by turn, to our destination. This is not just convenience, it is a profound shift in how we interact with our physical world. GPS moved from a niche military tool to an invisible, indispensable part of daily life for billions. From optimizing flight paths for airliners to guiding ships through treacherous waters, from coordinating emergency services during disasters to synchronizing financial transactions across global markets, the impact was, and is, truly immeasurable. My life's work, once shrouded in Cold War secrecy, was now helping a child find their way home, a package reach its destination, a farmer feed the world. It was more than I could have ever dreamed. The unseen threads had woven themselves into the very fabric of global civilization. As I look back on a lifetime dedicated to these unseen signals, I am filled with a complex mix of pride and humility. We began with a single unexpected beep from Sputnik, a Cold War challenge that spurred us to build something truly revolutionary. We built a network of precision, a constellation of atomic clocks orbiting Earth, designed initially for the grim necessities of military defense. Yet, through a tragic accident and a humanitarian decision, it blossomed into a global utility, a public good that few could now imagine living without. But the journey is not over. No technology is without its vulnerabilities. GPS signals, while robust, can be jammed, or worse, spoofed, tricked into giving false locations. Nations, recognizing the strategic importance of such a system, have developed their own global navigation satellite systems, or GNSS, Russia's GLONASS, Europe's Galileo, China's Beidou, even regional systems like India's Navican, Japan's QZSS. This multi-system environment offers redundancy and resilience, ensuring that even if one system faces issues, others can step in. It is a testament to the enduring human need for orientation, for knowing where you are in the grand scheme of things. From my humble lab bench, staring at a flickering oscilloscope, to witnessing my phone effortlessly guide me across continents, I have seen the impossible become mundane. GPS is no longer just a system. It is a silent, constant companion, an invisible thread connecting us all to a precise point in space and time. It is a testament to what happens when ingenuity meets necessity, when collaboration triumphs over fragmentation, and when the abstract concepts of physics are harnessed for the practical betterment of humanity. We built the eyes of the world. And in doing so, we found our own. If this journey moved you, if it made you look at your smartphone a little differently, I would love for you to like, share, and comment with your thoughts. What other hidden technologies do you rely on every day without thinking about? Let me know what historical deep dive you want next. And do not forget to subscribe and turn on the bell so you are here for the next one. Until then, keep exploring.